Howdy. We all have the experience of learning by watching other people. Think of social skills. We learn when to raise our hand. We learn when to take a turn in a conversation. Think about motor skills. We learn how to play musical instruments by watching people. We can learn sports by watching people. And all of these things require us to move our bodies in a very precise way. Now, this ability to learn by watching has been phrased or termed observational learning. It's been studied at the social level, all the way down to individual nerve cells in the brain called mirror neurons, which are part of a mirror neuron system. Just think of reflections of the world or reflections of seeing people do things. So now the question is, how can we apply this idea of observational learning? Well, one of the most obvious is, of course, if you think about coaching. A coach shows a player, do this, they do that. He says, do it this way, then they do it that way. So they learn by watching. Now, in the rehab clinic, observational learning is also a very important part. The therapist demonstrates, the patient watches, so it's a part of functional recovery. Now, what a stroke does is it destroys, so it kills cells. What I've been saying about observational learning is it builds knowledge. Okay, a stroke leads to language loss, memory problems, visual problems, and functional motor problems. Okay? So when we think of functional motor problems, think of things like activities of daily living, your ability to brush your teeth, your ability to comb your hair. So the question becomes, can we use observational learning along with some of today's technology to somehow improve the rehabilitation environment? Because what happens after a person leaves intense rehab and they go home is a lot of times whatever they gained levels off, or sometimes they actually even lose some of the function. So this is one of the issues that I've been addressing in my research, and I've been working with engineers and physical therapists to develop a 3D virtual reality system that may actually have application to rehabilitation. Now, the way our system works is you put on a set of goggles, and once you put the goggles on, there's nothing out there. Okay, the world is gone. So think about when you played hide and seek as a kid and you jump in the closet, you close the door, boom, you're dark. Right? It's kind of spooky, same way these goggles are, okay? So the question is, if we put people in an environment like this, can they function in it normally? So one of our first preliminary studies has been to examine this. And so what we've looked at is we've looked at young adults, older adults, and post-stroke patients. And what our task was, we put them in a goggle, and we show them stick figure skeletons of the arms, moving either the left arm or the right arm, doing different types of actions. And then we say, what we want you to do is identify the action for us as fast as you can and correctly. And so we had people do this in our 3D goggles, and we also had them do it in a normal visual environment, like what we're sitting here, right here in, okay? And what was important is we found that even though the stroke patients don't identify the actions as well as the young and old adults, they're at like 85%, the other groups are at like 97%, okay? There's no difference in their performance in the 3D environment or the normal visual environment. This suggests that the goggles in the system don't disrupt the normal processes that might be used in observational learning. In other words, the ability to identify and imitate an action. And we also demonstrated that their reaction time to the stimulus is also not different when they're inside the 3D or the 2D environment. Again, not disrupting these processes that might be associated with learning through observation, okay? So we find this very promising, and where we'd like to go with this is to possibly combine different types of technologies as rehabilitation tools. And so one idea is to take the VR, virtual reality environment, and actually combine it with robotic therapy. What a robot can do is it can move the arm, okay? So now you get both physical action as well as observational learning combined. And so kind of our long-term goal is to think of developing at home, right, devices that can help in rehabilitation so that when a person has to leave that intense clinical environment, they can still have training at home such that they don't lose, or maybe they actually even gain a little bit more, thereby linking clinical rehab with home rehab. Thank you.